Hello and welcome to Millennium News Hour. I am Tanziba Naurin. In today's bulletin, we will present top and trending news from across the nation and the world. Let's begin with the headlines of the day. Jill Biden says East Africa dropped up close 6 more aid. Man jailed in Arizona crash that killed 2 cyclists, hurt 11. Wind shreds southern plains, California to see more snow. Five dead, including patient, in medical flight crash in Nevada. Ex-SC mayor taking over White House office of engagement. US calls on Russia to stay with nuclear weapons treaty. Williamson becomes Democratic primary's first Biden challenger. DeSantis takes over Disney district punishing company. Everything Everywhere All at Once dominates at SAG Awards. Take It Down, a tool for teens to remove explicit images. Italy migrant tragedy, death toll over 60, dozens missing. New quake hits Turkey, toppling more buildings, 1 killed. Romanian court says influencer Tate to be held for 3rd month. China accuses US of bullying with new illegal sanctions. UK-EU hail new chapter with deal to fix Brexit trade spat. EU slaps sanctions on top Russia officials, banks trade. Betty Boothroyd, first female UK Commons Speaker, dies at 93. North Korea holds rare meeting on farming amid food shortage. Sri Lanka police fired tear gas at election protest, 15 hurt. And Jake Paul takes first ring defeat by split decision to Fury. Now news in detail. US First Lady Jill Biden got an up-close look Sunday at the historic East Africa drought as she walked along arid land and listened as some Maasai women described how their children and livestock are going hungry. She appealed for more countries to join the United States to help alleviate the suffering. Some areas of the Horn of Africa have endured 5 consecutive failed rainy seasons, meaning there was no rainfall or an insufficient amount to help farmers with their crops and livestock. An upcoming 6th rainy season beginning in March is expected to be about the same or worse. Biden, who was on the final day of a 5-day visit to Africa, toured an outreach center in the town operated by World Vision with support from UNICEF and the World Food Program. She chatted with people who had brought their children to be screened for malnutrition, and she participated in a discussion with a group of women, including a mother of 10 children, who shared their stories. Biden noted that the United States has provided 70% of the money sent to the region to help alleviate the suffering. But we cannot be the only ones. We need to have other countries join us in this global effort to help these people of the region, she said, adding that the drought was competing with humanitarian efforts tied to Russia's war in Ukraine and an earthquake that killed tens of thousands of people in Turkey and Syria. A suspect has been arrested in connection with a crash that killed two bicyclists and injured 11 others in a Phoenix suburb, authorities said Sunday. Goodyear police announced that 26-year-old Pedro Quintana Lujan is jailed on suspicion of 2 counts of manslaughter, 3 counts of aggravated assault, 18 counts of endangerment, and 2 counts of causing serious injury or death by a moving violation. His hometown wasn't immediately available, and it was unclear Sunday if Quintana Lujan has a lawyer yet who can speak on his behalf. Police said the suspect was driving a pickup truck hauling a trailer when the vehicle crashed into a group of bicyclists about 8 a.m. Saturday on the Cotton Lane Bridge, a busy highway in Goodyear which is located about 19 miles west of Phoenix. Quintana Lujan stayed at the scene of the crash and was cooperating with authorities in their investigation, according to police spokeswoman Lisa Berry. Berry said a woman bicyclist died at the scene and another victim died at a hospital. Their names and ages weren't immediately available Sunday, but Berry said one of the deceased lived in Goodyear while the other was visiting from out of state. Berry also said of the 11 hurt, one had life-threatening injuries and several others were in serious condition. The names, age, and hometowns of the 11 injured also haven't been released yet. Parts of the southern plains counted the injured and surveyed the damage Monday after tornadoes and other powerful winds swept through, while some Michigan residents faced a 5th consecutive day without power following last week's ice storm. In California, the National Weather Service said a series of winter storm systems will continue moving into the state through Wednesday after residents got a brief break from severe weather Sunday. Parts of the Northeast that have seen little snow this winter were under a winter storm warning, and forecasters warned of continued high winds in parts of the plains and of thunderstorms and possible tornadoes in the Ohio Valley. A look at the weather threats around the country. Police in Norman, Oklahoma responded Sunday night to storm damage in parts of the city, about 20 miles south of Oklahoma City. Officials said there were 12 confirmed weather-related injuries there, none considered critical. Blizzard warning in California. Blizzard warnings began going into effect Monday in the Sierra Nevada range as more rounds of rain and snow entered California from the north and moved south. Northeast snowstorm. While not expecting a blockbuster storm by regional standards, southern New England braced for what could be the most significant snowfall of what has so far been a mild winter. A winter storm warning covered parts of the Northeast, including Connecticut, New York, Massachusetts, New Jersey, and Rhode Island, with heavy snow forecast for Monday evening through Tuesday afternoon. Michigan ice storm. In Michigan, crews continued to work to restore electricity. All 5 people aboard a medical transport flight, including a patient, were killed in a plane crash Friday night in a mountainous area in northern Nevada. The Leon County Sheriff's Office said authorities began receiving calls about the crash near Stagecoach, Nevada, around 9:15 p.m. and found the wreckage 2 hours later. Stagecoach, a rural community home to around 2,500 residents, is about 45 miles southeast of Reno. Care Flight, which provides ambulance service by plane and helicopter, said the dead included the pilot, a flight nurse, a flight paramedic, a patient, and a patient's family member. Barry Duplantis, president and CEO of the company, said Saturday afternoon that relatives of all 5 victims had been notified, the Reno Gazette Journal reported. We send our deepest condolences to their families, Duplantis said. The crash occurred amid a winter storm warning issued by the National Weather Service in Reno for large swaths of Nevada, including parts of Leon County. President Joe Biden on Monday announced the appointment of former Columbia, South Carolina Mayor Steve Benjamin as a top advisor, filling a key White House role from a state that has become crucial to the Democratic Party ahead of the 2024 election cycle. Benjamin will become director of the White House Office of Engagement. He takes over from another former mayor, Keisha Lance Bottoms, who had assumed the role in June and is returning to Atlanta, officials said. Benjamin will oversee White House efforts to ensure community leaders, diverse perspectives, and new voices have the opportunity to inform the work of the president in an inclusive, transparent, and responsible way, according to the White House. In a release, Biden called Benjamin a longtime public servant whose deep relationships across the country would well serve the administration. Benjamin, who is 53 years old, has long been considered a rising star in Democratic politics, serving 3 terms as Columbia's mayor and the first black mayor in the city's history. Serving as president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors and African Americans Mayors Association, Benjamin spoke at the 2016 Democratic National Convention and was among the candidates considered for Hillary Clinton's running mate that year. He opted not to run for a 4th term in 2021. A top U.S. arms control official on Monday sharply criticized Russia for suspending its participation in the last remaining nuclear weapons treaty, but said Washington will try to work with Moscow to continue its implementation. Russian President Vladimir Putin announced last week that the country would suspend participation in the new START treaty, which obligated both Russia and the US to commit to regular communications on the status of their nuclear arsenals, allow regular on-site inspections, and abide by caps on the number of deployed and non-deployed warheads of each side. Russia is once again showing the world that it is not responsible nuclear power. Bonnie Jenkins, the U.S. Undersecretary of State for Arms Control, said at a session of the Conference on Disarmament, a United Nations-affiliated international forum. Russia is not withdrawing from the treaty, which is in force until 2026, but Putin said Russia cannot accept US inspections of its nuclear sites while Washington and its NATO allies seek Russia's defeat in Ukraine. The Russian foreign minister said the country would respect the treaty's caps on nuclear weapons and continue notifying the US about test launches of ballistic missiles. Best-selling self-help author Marianne Williamson, who brought quirky spiritualism to the 2020 presidential race, has announced she is running for president again, becoming the first major Democrat to challenge President Joe Biden for his party's nomination in 2024. Williamson, who is 70 years old, is formally kicking off her campaign with an event in Washington on Saturday. Without mentioning former President Donald Trump, she noted in a weekend Facebook post that his unconventional White House win makes it odd for anyone to think they can know who can win the presidency. "I'm not putting myself through this again just to add to the conversation," Williamson wrote. "I am running for president to help bring an aberrational chapter of our history to a close and to help bring forth a new beginning." Williamson running against a sitting president from her own party would be the longest of long shots under any circumstances. But that's especially true this cycle, as the Democratic establishment and even potential presidential hopefuls who could have competed with Biden from the left or middle has closed ranks with remarkable uniformity behind the president. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis on Monday signed a bill that gives him control of Walt Disney World's self-governing district, punishing the company over its opposition to the so-called Don't Say Gay law. The bill requires DeSantis, a Republican, to appoint a 5-member board to oversee the government services that the Disney district provides in its sprawling theme park properties in Florida. Today, the corporate kingdom finally comes to an end, he said at a bill signing ceremony in Lake Buena Vista. There is a new sheriff in town, and accountability will be the order of the day. The signing came as DeSantis gears up for an expected presidential run and marks a high-profile legislative victory for a governor whose leveraging of cultural and political divides has pushed him to the fore of national Republican politics. DeSantis, whose book, The Courage to be Free, is coming out Tuesday, has moved in recent weeks to expand his national profile and political network through fundraisers and meetings with donors, elected officials, and conservative influencers. The unlikely awards season juggernaut Everything Everywhere All at Once merged on at the Screen Actors Guild Awards on Sunday and even gathered steam with wins not just for Best Ensemble Michelle Yeoh and Ke Huy Quan but also for Jamie Lee Curtis. The SAG Awards, often an Oscar preview, threw some curveballs into the Oscars race in a ceremony streamed live on Netflix's YouTube page from Fairmont Century Plaza in Los Angeles. But the clearest result of the SAG Awards was the overwhelming success of Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheiner's Madcap Multiverse Tale, which has now used its hot fingers to snag top honors from the acting, directing, and producing guilds. Only one film had won all three and not gone on to win Best Picture at the Oscars. After so much of the cast of Everything Everywhere All at Once had already been on the stage to accept awards, the night's final moment belonged to 94-year-old James Hong, a supporting player in the film and a trailblazer for Asian American representation in Hollywood. He brought up the ignoble yellow-face history of the 1937 film The Good Earth. Best Actor has been one of the hardest races to call. Austin Butler from Elvis, Brendan Fraser from The Whale, and Colin Farrell from The Bunches of Inisherin have all been seen as possible winners, but it was Fraser who went home with the SAG Award for his comeback performance as an obese shut-in The Whale. After the SAG Awards presented by the Film and Television Acting Guild, SAG-AFTRA lost their broadcast home at TNT or TBS. Netflix signed on to stream Sunday's ceremony. Next year's show will be on Netflix proper. Once you send that photo, you can't take it back, goes the warning to teenagers, often ignoring the reality that many teens send explicit images of themselves under duress or without understanding the consequences. A new online tool aims to give some control back to teens or people who were once teens and take down explicit images and videos of themselves from the internet. Called Take It Down, the tool is operated by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children and funded in part by Meta Platforms, the owner of Facebook and Instagram. The site lets anyone anonymously and without uploading any actual images create what is essentially a digital fingerprint of the image. This fingerprint, which is a unique set of numbers called a hash, then goes into a database and the tech companies that have agreed to participate in the project remove the images from their services. Now, the caveats. The participating platforms are, as of Monday, Meta's Facebook and Instagram, Yubo, OnlyFans, and Pornhub, owned by MindGeek. If the image is on another site or if it is sent in an encrypted platform such as WhatsApp, it will not be taken down. Now it's time for global updates. The death toll rose to 62 in the migrant tragedy of Italy's southern coast after rescue crews recovered 3 more bodies Monday, driving home once again the desperate and dangerous boat crossings of people seeking to reach Europe. Dozens more were believed to be missing, At least 7 children perished after a wooden boat broke up in stormy seas on the shoals of the Caribbean coast Sunday. Another 80 people survived, but more were feared dead given survivor reports that the boat, which set off from Turkey last week, had carried about 170 people. Authorities in the southern city of Croton asked relatives to provide descriptions and photos of their loved ones through a dedicated email and phone line to help identify the dead, who were being housed in a makeshift morgue at a sports arena. Italian authorities rejected criticism of a delayed rescue, noting they had dispatched 2 rescue boats shortly after the European Union's border agency spotted the 20-foot boat Saturday night as it headed toward shore. The boats had to turn back given the rough seas. A magnitude 5.6 earthquake shook southern Turkey on Monday, 3 weeks after a catastrophic tremor devastated the region, causing some already damaged buildings to collapse and killing at least 1 person, authorities said. More than 100 people were injured as a result of Monday's quake, which was centered in the town of Yeşilyurt in Malatya province. Yunus Sezer, the chief of the country's disaster management agency AFAD, told reporters. More than 2 dozen buildings collapsed. A father and daughter who were trapped beneath the ruins of a 4-story building in Yeşilyurt were rescued with injuries. They had entered the damaged building to collect belongings. Elsewhere in Malatya, search and rescue teams were shifting through the rubble of 2 damaged buildings that toppled on some parked cars, Haberturk reported. It was not clear if anyone was trapped under the debris. Malatya was among 11 Turkish provinces hit by the magnitude 7.8 earthquake that devastated parts of southern Turkey and northern Syria on February 6. A Romanian court on Monday upheld a third 30-day detention for the divisive influencer and former professional kickboxer Andrew Tate, who is held on suspicion of organized crime and human trafficking, an official said. Tate lost his appeal against a judge's February 21 decision to extend his arrest a third time for 30 days, according to Ramona Bola, a spokesperson for Romania's anti-organized crime agency TICOT. Tate, who is 36 years old, a British US citizen known for misogynistic views who has 5.2 million Twitter followers, arrived at the Bucharest Court of Appeal handcuffed to his brother Tristan, who is held in the same case. Bola said prosecutors also own an appeal Monday against a court's decision last week to place 2 women held in the case under house arrest instead of in full detention. None of the 4 has yet been formally charged. It is the third separate appeal the brothers have lost against decisions to extend their detention while investigations continue. All 4 will now remain in jail until at least March 29, Bola said. China said it closely monitored the flight of a US surveillance plane through the Taiwan Strait on Monday, accusing the US of having deliberately disrupted and undermined the regional situation. Chinese forces organized to keep an eye on the passage of the P-8A Poseidon anti-submarine patrol plane, and all matters were in hand, the People's Liberation Army's Eastern Theater Command said in a social media posting. China regards self-ruled Taiwan as its own territory to be brought under its control by force if necessary, and views the passage of foreign military ships and aircraft through the 160-kilometer wide strait as deliberate snubs and provocations. While US warships regularly transit the strait, one of the world's busiest shipping lanes, it is more rare for US military aircraft to do so. On the other hand, China on Monday accused the US of outright bullying and double standards in leveling what it called illegal sanctions on Chinese companies as part of US actions against Russia's Wagner Group and related companies and individuals. The UK and the European Union sealed a deal on Monday to resolve their thorny post-Brexit trade dispute over Northern Ireland, hailing the agreement as the start of a new chapter in their often fractious relationship. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen announced the grandly titled Windsor Framework after agreeing to the final details in Windsor, near London. Von der Leyen told a news conference it was historic what we have achieved today. Sunak said there had been a decisive breakthrough. The agreement, which will allow goods to flow freely to Northern Ireland from the rest of the UK, ends a dispute that has soured UK-EU relations, sparked the collapse of the Belfast-based regional government and shaken Northern Ireland's decades-old peace process. The European Union agreed Saturday to impose new sanctions on Russia over its invasion of Ukraine, targeting more officials and organizations accused of supporting the war, spreading propaganda or supplying drones, as well as restricting trade on products that could be used by the armed forces. The EU's Swedish presidency said the sanctions are directed at military and political decision makers, companies supporting or working within the Russian military industry, and commanders in the Wagner Group. Transactions with some of Russia's largest banks are also prohibited. Asset freezes were slapped on 3 more Russian banks and 7 Iranian entities, companies, agencies, political parties, or other organizations that manufacture military drones, which the EU suspects have been used by Russia during the war. The new measures proposed by the EU's executive branch 3 weeks ago were only adopted after much internal wrangling over their exact makeup and made public one day after the first anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the intended target date. Betty Boothroyd, the first and so far only female Speaker of Britain's House of Commons, has died, parliamentary authorities said Monday. She was 93. Boothroyd, who presided over the Commons' often raucous debates with no-nonsense humor between 1992 and 2000, died Sunday at a hospital in Cambridge, southern England. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak called Boothroyd a remarkable woman who dedicated her life to politics. The passion, wit, and sense of fairness she brought to politics will not be forgotten, he said. Born in Dewsbury, Northern England in 1929, Boothroyd worked as a dancer in a chorus line troupe called the Tiller Girls before entering politics. She worked as an assistant to several lawmakers and after several unsuccessful runs was elected to Parliament in 1973 for the Labour Party. 19 years later, she became the first woman to be elected Speaker by lawmakers in the 700-year history of the role. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un opened a major political conference dedicated to agriculture, state media reported Monday, as outside assessments suggest the country is facing a serious shortfall of food. South Korean experts estimate that North Korea is short around 1 million tons of grain, nearly 20% of its annual demand, after the pandemic likely disrupted unofficial grain imports from China and the government has restricted food sales at markets. Recent unconfirmed reports in South Korean media have said that some North Koreans have died of hunger, but most experts have seen no indication of mass deaths or famine in North Korea. During a high-level meeting of the ruling Workers' Party that began Sunday, senior party officials reviewed last year's work on state goals to accomplish rural revolution in the new era, the official Korean Central News Agency reported. The report said that the plenary meeting of the party's Central Committee will identify immediate important tasks on agricultural issues and urgent tasks arising at the present stage of the national economic development. KCNA didn't say whether Kim spoke during the meeting or how long it would last. Police in Sri Lanka on Sunday fired tear gas and water cannons to disperse protesters angry over a decision to postpone local elections after the government said it cannot finance them because of the country's crippling economic crisis. About 15 people were treated for minor injuries, according to Colombo National Hospital. Thousands of supporters of the opposition National People's Power Party tried to march toward the main business district in capital Colombo, ignoring police warnings after a court order barred them from entering the area, which includes the president's residence. office and several key government buildings. The order had been obtained in the backdrop of last July's massive protest when thousands of people stormed the presidential office and residence and occupied them for days. The crisis forced then President Gotabaya Rajapaksa to flee the country and resign. Now it's time for business news. Today's New York stock close price is 15,464.46. The NYSE composite is decreased by 120.47 points or 0.77%. Tokyo stock close price is 27,423.96. The Nikkei 225 index is decreased by 29.52 points or 0.11%. Shanghai stock close price is 3,258.0344. The Shanghai Composite Index is decreased by 9.13 points or 0.28%. Hong Kong stock close price is 19,943.51. The Hang Seng Index is decreased by 66.53 points or 0.33%. Bombay stock close price is 59,288.35. The Sensex index is decreased by 175.58 points or 0.30%. Let's have a look on today's sports story. YouTube star Jake Paul took the first defeat of his professional boxing career Sunday night, losing a split decision to Tommy Fury. Paul knocked down Fury with a short left hand early in the final round of their cruiserweight bout, but the younger half-brother of heavyweight champion Tyson Fury controlled long stretches of the 8-round meeting at Diriyah Arena. Two judges scored the bout 76-73 for Fury, while the third favored Paul 75-74. I have already won every single way in life, Paul said. I made it further than I ever thought I would, and beyond. This is a humbling experience. I will take it on the chin and come back. Fury is the first actual professional boxer fought by Paul, who built his lucrative second career by taking on mixed martial artists and a fellow YouTuber in boxing bouts that generated huge social media attention despite featuring more enthusiasm than skill. Let's have a look on today's weather forecast. That's all in today's news. Keep watching Millennium News 24 for latest news. Millennium TV USA and Millennium News 24 network is transmitted and available to be watched free for all at TVs such as Sony, Samsung, LG, Roku TV, Amazon TV and Apple TV. And also in all European countries and Australia available with Sky Network, Worldwide Jadoo TV, Radiant IPTV, Worldwide Jago PD Network and Horizon Satellite globally. Stay connected with us for all types of informative and entertainment program. Thank you.